Yay! You have no idea why I'm starting out the show with yay, but I had the most beautiful, exquisite conversation with this woman sitting in front of you today, Jennifer Haack. Jennifer is a dear, dear friend of mine. She's not a stranger by any sense of the word, but she's someone that I haven't seen up until a few days ago for a lot of years now. I don't quite know how many, but it's been too long. And we had the most beautiful conversation because she asked me, "Can I have a conversation with you in 50 conversations? I'm not a stranger." And I said, "Absolutely." And we had the most beautiful conversation. But somehow I was in the computer day from hell. My computer just stopped recording out of nowhere. We had this great conversation. I looked up and I went, "Oh no." And we recorded the last, I think, 15 minutes of it. That was a great teaser. What you're going to get today is the actual conversation. And I can tell you how much joy it brings me to introduce to you this woman who is a dear friend of mine, who it doesn't matter how long we go without seeing each other, because when we started speaking, it was as if we spoke 10 minutes before that. And I am so excited for you, strangers, to meet a beautiful, beautiful friend of mine and to watch the way she operates in the world, to sort of listen to the way she answers some of the questions I ask, to see, in spite of herself sometimes, how powerful she is as a human being. And so this is a person that I look to as an influencer for me. This is a person that I look to, and she doesn't even know it probably, that I gain inspiration from watching her do alchemy in the places that she goes into. She takes things that are working, they're good things, but somehow her touch and the way she comes in changes things around, and it goes from um, functional to beautiful. I want to say from good to great, but I don't know that I believe in those terminologies that way. But I do know that she makes beautiful things happen around her, and it's just beautiful to watch.
Oh my goodness.
So it is with no hyperbole that I introduce to you a friend who had become a little bit of a stranger because I hadn't seen her, but I realize can never be a stranger. Jennifer Hack.
Never.
Jennifer, welcome.
Never be a stranger.
Welcome to 50 Conversations with 50 Not Strangers.
Yeah, not strangers.
How
Thank
are
you. I'm excited. I hope it goes as well as it did the other day.
It's going to go better. That's what the guy. I had another guy on that we recorded the same day, and I lost everything from his. We didn't even get 10 minutes from his. We lost everything. He was an Orthodox rabbi in New York, and it reminded me of what I would have become had I stayed in where I was going. And he said, "We had such a good conversation. I don't think we're going to be able to do anything better." I said, don't say that. We do way better." And we had the most beautiful conversation that I'll post later today for everybody to hear. So
Can't wait.
that will happen with you also. Tell me, amidst all the things that are going on, we ask this question, how are you? And so often we just say great or fine, and we just go on as if that's really the answer. But you're a buddy of mine, and I haven't talked to you except for the conversation we had a couple of days ago. We've had a Me Too movement. We've had a pandemic virus called coronavirus. We've had a Black Lives Matter protest where people of color are standing up finally to say, "Hey, will you listen to me? Can I be heard too? Can I be somebody that matters in the world?" We have our religious organizations, churches having to reevaluate everything they're doing, watching priests who are clergy and monastics having boys that they are having relationships with. I mean, ugly stuff. We have business leaders being looked at in a different ideology because they're powerful men, and the effect that powerful men have and the assumptions they made with the women that work around them. How are you really doing in this world that we're living in right now? How are you?
Well, it sounds like I should be awful, but in truth, I really am great. I feel like probably one of the best points ever in my life. And you're not supposed to say things like that. You get kind of horror, right?
Yeah, I think that
Not Littlewood.
I think if more people would say things like that, we would live in a better world. Because what I want to highlight right from the first sentence out of Jennifer's mouth is that the things that happen to us don't really matter. What matters is the meaning we give to the things that happen to us. And so if you look at the world that you're living in and take a moment and pause. How are you doing really in the world that you're living in, listener? And take a moment and listen to what Jennifer's saying. And she almost apologizes. She does apologize for saying I'm doing so well in this moment. It shouldn't be that way. But there's no I want you to stand on the mountaintop and yell it, not apologize. Because I think we need to be able to feel some of the things you're feeling, experience some of the things you're experiencing, do some of the things that you're doing, because it's the things that you're doing that are allowing you to feel that way.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. It's the life that I'm living and the people that are around me and the opportunities that I've been given. And so I don't know if this is like kind of where I jump into that, but
Jump, jump.
so yeah, so we've known each other probably over 20 years. And when I was with Gadabout, and we got Zensi outfits to wear to iSpa, and my daughter, when she was just a toddler, would walk around iSpa and hand out the Hay House cards and give everybody their daily affirmations. And that was a high point in my life too. I'm probably like an eternal optimist anyway. I like to be enjoying what I'm doing, um, and that was a wonderful time, and the Gadabout experience was great. And then
So let me just
my
jump in a minute for people who don't know some of these terminologies. Jennifer and I met through the spa industry. Gadabout was one of the world-renowned salons and spas. It was a chain, a small chain of of salons in Arizona and day spas in the Arizona area. iSpa is the global organization that and they have a show where spas come and people who sell to spas come. I was with Hay House and selling to spas. Then I had a clothing line, and so those are the references that she's making. That so we met through that industry. I'm sorry.
and had fun. And fortunately, both of my positions when I was doing spa directing both afforded me multiple properties. So I think the funnest time I had was with all of the vendors and manufacturers and inventors that I would meet there, and get to introduce the things that like you were doing to everyone all over the world. And so it was really cool. But I ended up moving to Dallas and joining Rosewood Crescent Hotel, and then evolved to Rosewood Corporate as their corporate spa director and building the Sense brand, and which was a
Again,
glorious job because I just pretty much traveled around the world and went to spas and found products and wrote protocols. And but I really wasn't fulfilled. By the end it wasn't clicking. I don't think for that, obviously not for them either. But once something works, it works. Um, but
so
I
can you pause for a minute there? Because most people hearing this will hear what an idyllic life. You're traveling around to these beautiful. I mean, the Rosewood properties were some of the most elite properties on the planet. You're
Yeah, and then
traveling.
I would go to other properties because we didn't have our hotels open there yet and our spas. So I would get to experience like going around Bali and experiencing. It was the craziest thing. Our company, Rosewood, got bought by a company based in Hong Kong, and the woman who ran it, amazing woman. And so we're in a car at a meeting and talking about our brand, and she's like, "Well, have you been to spas in Bali?" And I'm like, "No, I've been to Bali." By the time we got back to the office, I had tickets and went the next day for 3 days, 4 days, just to go spa hopping at these just spectacular properties and meditating. And But I was doing that all alone, and it wasn't, we weren't like-minded really in terms of vision, and but it was still a gift and a blessing and an amazing journey with them. And but then I
So
called Deborah.
I'm sorry, hold it. So pause, because I want to dive into that, because so many people would say that is the dream life. I mean, if I could travel around the world and I could get paid to go to these beautiful spas, and I could get paid to do protocols, and I could get paid to test product and bring product into those places, what a beautiful thing. But you're saying something that's really interesting to people. I mean, it's really interesting to me that I know you for these years, and I know that how important this is to you. As beautiful as it was, as nice as it was, there wasn't an alignment of philosophy with who you were and who they were. There wasn't in a lot of ways, but
And I'm a
something was missing.
collaborator, I think. I'm a collaborator. And I didn't really have, it was just one person kind of representing that. And yeah, like you're saying, we weren't in alignment. So yeah, you have to feel right. Our work you have to be able to feel passionate. And I don't even know if I really knew at the time. I think I discovered in what I'm doing now that these words I'm saying about that, I don't think I would have said that, 6 years ago, 7 years ago, but Leah only had a few more years left in high school. And when you go to China or you go to Abu Dhabi, or right, you're not going for
The night.
a few days and coming home for the weekend. You're going for months.
Wow.
And that was definitely hard too. And so I called Deborah Neal. Deborah Neal is another amazing mentor. Pam, the owner, Gadabout, amazing women, these women mentors in my life. And I called her and said, I hear your Dallas Aveda Institute is looking for a director. And we both got all excited. Oh, you'll be perfect. And I'm thinking it's just, a giant salon and spa, one building, piece of cake. And, but it wasn't that at all. 6 months later, I was sitting with Deborah. She's like, is this a good fit? I'm like, I don't know. And then I, thought about it that weekend and decided, I need to figure this out. And, I realized what my job is it's a school, first of all. It's not a salon and spa. And what I'm doing is serving students and educators. And once I figured that out and became very especially student-centric, I realized, and it took a few years, but that I was doing what I was destined to do. And, I've seen that, that epically beautiful side of this industry. So, and the amazing success there is. So I think for that reason, I can really genuinely lead these students into an industry that I think is limitless. So I think the fact that I can do what I'm doing with so much, with integrity, But then the other thing is just that these students are, um, they're millennials, they're angst, they're defined by their labels of anxiety, you don't get it, ADD, or just the mere fact that they're naturally attracted to this because they're creative, they're caring, they're tactile, they're, so like all of us creative people, a little off, and it's taken some time, and I have the most amazing team around me of people and partners, and we have an incredible culture, and I love what I do. I just love going there.
So was the
And
team there when you came, or did you bring some of those people in?
it evolved. I didn't recruit anybody I knew from the industry, but it was an evolution. It was about finding the right people. And, I know the people who could really work at the level that you need to really for a school to work. It's not camp, and you're not there. You're there to be a teacher. You're there to be a mentor. You're there to show them the way. And I think that the experience I had when I first got there was like, they were like camp counselors. I'm like, this is not, you need to create engagement and constant education. We need to be working at this. and then working on how it feels to be in a building, how it
Yeah.
feels to be a student there, and evolving the relationships to the people who are going to hire them. But I think I'll dial back to Deborah Neal because 20 years ago, I she was also part of iSpa, and Edwin Senior, who's now passed, and we were all on the board of directors for iSpa together, and we started having to create pathway for spa directors because it was a brand new title. You couldn't go to college for that at that time. So we were creating roundtables all over the country, meeting with people who were doing it and learning from each other. And so I had gone to Hammond, where Deborah Neal they run the biggest distributorship of Aveda in the world. They run Serious Business, which is an amazing leadership event every year. And I listened to her talk to her company. I listened to her tell her story. And I listened to her tell this huge room full of people that in this industry, we change the world one client at a time. And I bought that lock, stock, and barrel. The minute she said it, I'm like, it is so true. Because I was on a different path. And when I met Pam at Gadabout, everything changes our life. People like, oh, I got this job, it changed my life. Of course, your life is changing. She transformed the trajectory of my life
Wow.
and who I am and how I think and how I want to impact people. And
So
Deborah also.
can you keep your thought, because there's just so many things that you're saying that are so matter of fact for you, but that are revolutionary concepts to someone who might be living it. What does that mean that she changed the trajectory of your life? How does somebody do that?
Well, I think Pam does it because she's so good at growing people. She wasn't about growing superstar stylists. She wasn't about growing. She was about growing people, and she invested in people with things to make us better parents, better friends, better with our money, better with our choices and our life choices. And I think she's also really open. She was always open to my energy and my enthusiasm, and she let me kind of create this path and make mistakes and be a full part of that company. And when I said I really want to go, because they were so involved, like with Intercoiffure and TSA, everything was global with Catabout, and so the spa at the time was great, but very small. A few estheticians doing waxing, a couple of massage therapists, and I'm like, I really want to go to this eye spa. I mean, this looks really cool. I had been introduced to Ayurvedic body treatments. I'm like, I really think I want to be more. And it was funny because the whole time she'd be like, okay, well, you can go, but you're not going to be working at all the locations. And then she would say, well, it's not like we're gonna make you a corporate spa director, but she kept letting me go down this
Right.
path and encouraging me and right by my side, really. She went with me, um and I fell in love with an industry that I never even knew I could be a part of. And I got to be at a very, critical time because it was a growing. Remember, iSpa didn't want salon spas there at
Right.
all. They were just so hoity-toity. And then we became the fastest growing segment. And then ironically, all the people who didn't really want salon spas became day spa consultants.
Yeah.
So, uh,
So so again, I just want to, there's so much in what you're saying, and because I've known you over the course of the years, talk to me if you can, and it might be hard for you to talk about it, but I want you to talk about it if you can, about that place that happened where Pam entered into you and you became Pam. Because I see you as Pam in the work that you do and the work that you're doing with everywhere you go. And what is it about caring about a person? Like, so many people don't care about the person, they care about the job and training people to do the job and training people, which is all valuable. But there's something in caring about the person that actually changes the trajectory of a person's life rather than just the job that they're doing. And when that trajectory changes and people are in tune with it and connected to it, everything about what they do changes. And I've watched that happen to you. That you, the people that you have emulated, you've allowed them to work their magic on you and do the alchemy on you, that you have become who you
That is
emulated.
probably the highest compliment. And I will say that I wanted that, I really wanted to be able to be that kind of a leader. And I think that I feel now on certain days and things happen as I move through my current role where I do feel like that. I do, she's always with me and I hardly ever talk to her now. I watch her on Facebook, but she's always in me and always her tapes, um, to keep you on course. I think you become like, but for me, becoming more like that is when I realized that being a leader wasn't about leading; it's about serving.
Hmm.
And when I approach each day with that, and I get stubborn sometimes, like I want my way. I'm a director, and I've certain things I'm very controlling about, but um, the way I throw myself back into balance is reminding myself that I'm doing my best work when I'm working for everyone who works in that building, every student who goes there, every parent. And it allows me to be incredibly transparent. It allows me to be brave in my conversations and I guess allows me to really be fulfilled every day. I mean, it became really great for me there a couple of years ago. It took, and even the team I work for, they're like, it takes a couple of years. And this job is a very unusual job. It's a very demanding role. And beauty school, I don't get why, but there's so much angst. It's so hard for them, and we're
Oh,
trying to do things at a different level. We're trying to grow people, but also, that's all the things about being present and 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 part of the service experience and there for your guests in a way that you have to believe you can change the world one person at a time. And because you can. This industry is extraordinary. One of the big tells for me, and obviously a moment that probably helped really launch my career on that spa operation side was 9/11. You were at that Palm Springs ice spa after that, weren't you? And I was
yeah,
there with Leah. My whole life had just started to
yeah,
change dramatically
yeah.
with her dad, and us starting a new journey together, Leah and I, um, and we were all in shock.
Yeah.
And I only went because I could drive. I would not have gotten on a plane, and I went because I could have her with me, and it was so powerful. But what happened right after that, without us even realizing it, was our business exploded because people needed to be touched.
Yeah.
People needed to connect, and
Yeah.
like in 2 weeks, I sold 200 of those. Remember those little microwave bears with lavender?
Yeah.
People just, and our rooms were full, and staycation started, of course, but it was the initial explosion of people weren't coming in because they're here to look nice. They were coming in because they needed to be touched.
Yeah.
And 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 the thing is that that's always that way in this industry.
So let me backtrack for a minute because again, um, it seems so natural for you that it almost loses its extraordinariness of how extraordinary it is, because it's so natural. Were you always this way, or uh, did you become like you've said some things that I really want to just highlight for people that are listening. One is, even though an environment is gorgeous, even though an environment fulfills you in some ways, if it doesn't fulfill you at the core of your being, you're not going to be happy there, and it's not going to fit that well when push comes to shove. You said something else that I just can't even remember now, but the sense of, were you always people centered? Um,
Definitely,
and so
definitely.
and so that wasn't new. It was finding a group of people that were people centered as well and could bring that out of you more? Because I've watched it come out of you
Yeah, I
more.
think it was also, I didn't always make the best decisions. And, I did things that limited my full potential. And I think that, like, even my mother knows that it was Pam that changed changed me. And I think it was all there. I'm kind of lucky. I have the best qualities of both of my parents. Um, my mother's energy to do things and to get things done and to navigate through things. And, if it's in front of you to do it, you do it, you figure it out. And then my dad is just really so kind and humble and loving. And he always wanted, encourage, he just wanted me to express myself. He never ever tried to mute me.
Hmm.
And so between the two of them, I think, but it took having a mentor. First of all, everybody should have mentors. Everybody should have people who you can look at and say, not that I want to be them, but who can help you kind of tap into things that you didn't even know you wanted to be until you see it so gorgeously in other people. And there's a lot of people at Gadabout and in this industry that, including you, that have impacted me. But I just think it's collective over the years, all these conversations
Yeah.
and you know, getting into the spa industry the way I did. But the school thing, I'll just kind of jump because I don't even know I mean, who wants to
Go.
really hear about all this, but I'll just jump that, we were definitely in a much better place when 5 months ago as a culture. We had definitely gotten to a place where we just had the right people and, still some goals we were struggling to hit, but otherwise it felt really good. And for most of the students, it felt good, even with their struggles. It's so, and that's another thing, but we suddenly had to pivot and
Huge pivot.
along with everyone else. And we had a company that was so supportive in getting us on that path very fast. Within days before Dallas closed, we had pallets of mannequins and boxes of iPads to make sure every educator had every tool they needed. On March 14th, on March 11th, I think we stopped having any clients. And March 14th, we sent all of our students home. And we as a group started, trying to learn how to use all this technology. How are we going to keep the curriculum going? And it was really at first a 24/7 job, especially for me, for sure. It was all day, every day. The days were hard for the educators too, because they had to really start to figure out, how do we do this? How do we connect? And then as we're watching further is, how do you keep engagement? How do you keep creative, tactile, social people engaged when they're locked in their rooms? And it just got better. I think the fact that we as a group were so committed to making sure we were always watching it and always growing it and reaching out to the students and saying, what feels good, what doesn't feel good, what do you want more of? Sometimes just what they wanted more of was time to talk, time to talk to each other. I would have to remember to, log into the different classrooms and say, listen, I know there's a lot more going on right now for all of you than this. So what do you need? I
Yeah.
mean, one girl was like, I just need stuff. I'm doing online great, but she had a special needs child, and I think she has 2 or 3 kids and one special needs, and she's like, I just need stuff for them. And so I jumped on Amazon and found tactile toys and things like that and sent a box. And if that's all whatever you need, we just have to figure out how to keep you all, you know,
Wow.
that's why you should never be afraid to ask for what you need.
Yeah.
People don't.
So I want to pause for a minute. I want you to try and hear in an industry that is completely tactile. I mean, the whole essence of the industry is touch and cut and style and spa and massage, that suddenly had all of that taken from it. And now it
Yeah,
was computer screens and
well, the industry at large did a lot of great things. Veda, first, all the Pure Pro platforms, all those national, international artists all started making their education platforms available to us, videos, webinars. So we were able to, they got to see and learn things they never would have seen and learned, or people just coming in to talk to them about their mental health.
But I want
And
to
then,
pause. I want to pause for a minute. They got that because people didn't get crushed by the environment. People weren't victims of what had happened. They used the situation to say, how can we best give to people the experience of our experience under these new sets of circumstances? And they chose the right decisions to bring the experience of tactility, or whatever the word is, by bringing educators and people that they would never have a chance to meet normally right into their living rooms.
living rooms, bedrooms, and listen, not every one of them was able to navigate it, but some of them, and you could see it, their cameras open, they were dragging every family member they could in front of the camera, and if they couldn't do that, they were doing their own hair, or we would use pictures to create consultation tools. And but I think the biggest thing was that we were also connected and talking and feeling, and then we have this other cultural impact of the Black Lives Matter conversation coming up. And Renee Gadar, who's also speaking at the graduation that you're going to be at,
Great.
she came and did a company-wide, Aveda-wide webinar, really acknowledging that Aveda as a company in our schools, our curriculum is very white. And it was very honest, and I've known that in our school. We, as a group of educators in my school, have talked all the time. We've got to make sure we're keeping more texture education, more opportunity to do better. But this opened up a dialogue that I got to start hearing my students talk about what it feels like to be in my school. They come in and they're looking to see themselves. They want to see someone else who looks like them, and to suddenly have open conversations in classroom. We ended up I had a student run an entire conversation with a couple of our classrooms where talking about what it feels like to be at Aveda, and even recognizing opportunities that I have as a leader to do a better job, because there definitely have been events along the way that I've maybe tried to say, well, just stop fighting, when the truth is things were happening because of this kind of awareness of systemic racism. Like, things are set up a certain way,
Yeah.
and not really understanding how that feels for them. Or some of them, those students saying, well, no, that's why I came here, because I've been doing black hair on my family my whole life. And they want to learn to do white hair so that they can get those positions in those salons. And then discovering too how many high performing salons there are, where if a black woman walks in who's dressed to the nines and stunning and all, and she would walk into a salon and people will be like, I don't know how to do your hair. So our responsibility is huge, and we're digging into that. But I think it was this kind of permission to have these really honest conversations and to be vulnerable with each other, and to realize, I think for me, I try to be where I am. I'm not an activist, but that same belief that you can change your world one chair at a time, we can make an impact on this conversation by starting here in this environment.
Yes.
And making sure that it's safe, making sure that we're brave to step in when things are not being communicated. And we have a lot of diversity we're dealing with as well. We have Black students and brown students, and we have transgender and no gender, and and it has to be a safe place for everyone.
For everybody.
And it is not safe. It doesn't become safe by just not talking about it, right?
Right.
Because, hey, we're diverse, and oh no, we accept it. But the truth is, we have to be brave enough to say things out loud. Are we really? And are we really making sure to ask, how does it feel to be here as a transgender? Or how does it feel to be here as a Black woman, a Black man? It was, I think the thing I'm just trying to get to is that for me, it's been a privilege to do this job that I'm doing. But since March, I just, it's been such a powerful
Yeah.
experience. And I think I said it to you the other day, you know, it's maybe not the right thing to say, but I've been really proud to be in the position I'm in and to be able to show up during this whole thing and
Absolutely.
also keep my dad safe at home. And I've had my daughter home since March 14th. And um,
So let me reel it back a little, because part of the conversations that you're having, it's really important for people to speak what they need to say. But I also hear something different, and it resonates with the way I live my life now and the changes that have happened for me. That it isn't enough to only speak what you have to say. We have to have people around us that listen to what we say and to hear what we're saying and to decide if we want to do something about what we're saying because we've spoken and we've been heard and we've been appreciated and valued. And sometimes those things will generate change because we'll decide as a community of people, we've heard what you said, we listened to it, we want to make changes that adapt to it. And sometimes we won't be able to do that. But we can always listen to what a person says, even if we can't follow up quite yet with an action. What do you think about that?
say the last part again.
So there are going to be inevitably some things that people say that and that we really hear, but we're just not in the position. It might be 4 steps away from where we are right now. We may not be able to do like what I find in listening to people is it's often enough for them to just know that they've been heard, they've been appreciated, their opinions have been acknowledged and validated. Um, Even if we can't make a change right this minute to initiate that, even if I don't believe exactly the same way they believe, we still have made a first step in the fact that they feel heard and accepted and acknowledged. And together down the line, when the moment is right, and maybe that's one day away, maybe that's 6 months away, maybe that's 5 years away, we will come together again and initiate the changes that we have to do. But not every change can be made just because someone expresses the desire to have that change happen. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah.
And so,
Yeah.
how do you
I
deal?
will tell you, in my culture, I think the most important thing was to have a conversation right away. And because it's suddenly, so I'll just kind of tell you the rundown of what happened. So Renee spoke, and then it was on webinars, all of ours, everyone in the company was watching this and recognizing, right? And what came up was, number one, that there had been several students who had been reaching out to me over the past few days because they couldn't believe we weren't having a conversation about it.
Right.
And that I guess some of them tried to talk about it in their classrooms, and their educator, who ironically is married to a Black woman and has been for 22 years and has a Black and white family. But he had said, this is going to be our safe place, but we're going to just focus on our art and on this. It wasn't because he wanted to mute the conversation. It was because he, you know, first of all, none of us were prepared. But
Right.
anyway, so this webinar ends, and literally I'm in my office at one, it's all glass mostly. I have my phone ringing from one educator, my computer blowing up from another educator, people outside my windows, we need you now, because every one of my classrooms, it was, my educators were, we don't know how to do this. We do
Yeah.
not know how to make a conversation that's happened. And so we needed to get in right away. So I spent some time in some of the classrooms, and there was yelling, and I said, listen, I think that none of this time for us is going to be worth it if we don't come up with a plan. So I am hearing you. I can't, I need you to tell me what you want to do as a community, Black, white, what, as students here, what do you want to do? And I said, do you want to have a meeting? Do you want to have a conversation? Do you want to, and a few of my students, you know, really stepped up, really got involved, and created this beautiful event that could be virtual or in the building. And we had a discussion, and we started talking about the conversation had to be, and I talked to Renee about it to get help, about how do we elevate the experience for Black and Brown students in our culture? How do we get more Black clients into our culture so all of our students are learning? And then how do we have the bigger conversation about the unspoken stuff? You know, to a point where I had certain students saying, so, you know, now that we're having this conversation, I don't even know what's appropriate to say. Is it African American? Can I call you a Black girl? And it was like all this brave conversation started to come out, and then the trick is to make sure that we keep it going, that they keep seeing it, because I said your opportunity now isn't to be angry because you suddenly have permission to say this has been bad. Your opportunity now is to leave a legacy for students that come here behind you, and for you as you leave here. You know, so I mean, can you believe running a cosmetology school? This is the kind of stuff I've been doing for the last 5 months, and it's so powerful and it's so rewarding.
Yeah.
And these young people just are so inspiring, and you know, it's just an incredible time. And I think that we don't have to get overwhelmed by the incredible time. We just have to decide in our lives, in our space, how do we live through this? Because, you know, you keep hearing, it's the end of the world, and it's like, well, okay, let's try a different approach.
Right.
How do
Right.
we live in this? How do
Yeah.
we keep doing this? And, you know, I showed you my mask and shield haircut. I'm very paranoid and careful. I think this is a very real thing, but I think we do have to live through it. And
Yeah.
um, so, yeah, I've been really, really blessed, and but it's been the journey, and it's been people like you, and um, I don't know. I feel like I'm talking too much.
No, you're talking great. I think what I want to do is I want to now translate it to people that are listening that are not in spa, and I want to see if there's a way that, like, what you're doing and what you guys have created is you've responded to the world around you. You've sort of heard the call of what the world around you is saying, and you're listening, and you're trying to move forward. What can you say to people who are too scared to listen? Was there anybody in your organization, or maybe don't make it that personal? Was there anybody in that you know, that doesn't have to be organization or not, that just was unable to listen to the other side? Whether it was white people talking, not really able to hear what Black people were saying, or Black people not being able to hear what white people were saying.
Yeah, I think when in that conversation, absolutely, but I really feel like it changed.
How did it
I
tell me what happened, because here's, and I want to try and make it not as specific. I want to use the microcosm to go to the macrocosm. Like, for people who are listening that really do want to listen and really do want to change but just haven't been able to do it, what can they do to open themselves up to allow another point of view to come into their being, and to hear somebody else point of view, and to be able to be open to it and create a new relationship with the world they live in?
Well, I think we talked about it the other day. You know, when you're in a conversation with somebody who's committed to being right and making you wrong, right? It's an impossible conversation because there's no dialogue, right? You're not dialoguing, you're not evolving. So I think the onus is on the other side, right? If in my situation, the onus was on my side to validate. You're absolutely right. I completely understand why you're feeling that way. In my circumstance, though, there is no one else who is going to help create a platform for us to get through this.
Yeah.
So, you know, so I think, you know, we talked so much about validating, you know, it goes back for me before Leah was born, of, you know, the words that came up in talking about Pam's relationship to her daughter Jan, and all these estheticians I was with in a car going for education, where what is it about Jan and why is their relationship so great? And as a mother-daughter, especially for me, because mine was rocky. And it was that Pam validates, and in general, validates people's feelings. And, that became my kind of mantra with Leah she's always had a voice. And I think because she has a voice, she has confidence. She's an amazing woman. And she also does the same for other people around her.
Yeah.
And it is, I mean, I think it's so simple what people want. They want to be heard. They don't want to be shut down. That's when I'm at my worst, when I'm trying to control an outcome, or because we talked about this other day too, that I move fast. I can usually get the conversation before people are done, so then I'm ready to move to the next, and I have to physically stop myself. Sorry, my glasses are here. Stop myself and plant myself and do this to make sure that I allow somebody to really finish who needs to talk. And that serves me a lot with my students, I think, and my team. They sometimes realize they just need that, and then go from there. So I have to be careful because I'm kind of more of a talker and a doer.
Yeah.
Than a listener.
What's been the biggest thing that you've seen that you never saw before in this situation?
I have never seen a team that I've been on teams, I've seen it, but I guess never with me with the responsibilities I have. I have never had the privilege to serve a team like the one I have, and how they mobilized and how they continue to this day to work so hard at this, and we trust each other, and I think having really created a culture in this campus that is so great, and
Yeah.
I think a lot of the students know it. Most of the students know it, um, and now it's blended, so they have a lot of options. We don't want anybody to feel uncomfortable or unsafe, but some of them come in a lot, and so for them, are my educators in the building now. We don't stay open as long because literally they're standing now in front of these groups teaching with masks and shields and cameras, some in the camera, some in the building. I mean, they have to work so hard to make this work,
Yeah.
and and um, and they're incredible. And then I think other things I've never, I think that the Black Lives Matter conversation in our building was epic, and it gave me hope. And
What would you say is the biggest lesson you've learned from all the situations that have gone on, from all the calamities that we're going through, all the situations, all the upheavals? I mean, certainly the business world has been shaken by powerful men being asked to relook at the way they deal with women. Um, has that touched the spa world? Has the Me Too movement been? We've talked about Black Lives Matter. Has Me Too?
I've grown up in this industry with such powerful women. I mean, if you think about first, there's tons of amazing men in this industry, and they
Yeah.
probably, if you really look at it, Frederick Fakai can get $750 for a haircut. How many women hairdressers are doing that? I don't know. But the women in this industry are changing people's lives. The
Yeah.
women in this industry are creating places for people to thrive financially, especially young women, and be single parents and live their dream. And so, from Noelle DiCaprio to Pam McNair, and just the women who were leading, and even in what's her name in Canada. I can't think of her name right now, but Deborah Neal, and then all the women you can think of from iSpa, Lynn McNeese, all these women, Gail Brady, and just so many people. And then they introduce you to people who maybe aren't that huge within it, but this industry is just always introducing you to voices,
Yeah.
people to listen to, and Deborah Zaki.
Yeah.
And
I don't want,
so, no, I guess I've never, I did experience it, I think, a little bit in Rosewood because a little bit,
yeah,
but I think that's more the hotel industry. I just wasn't a good fit for the
yeah.
hotel world, you know? Um,
I want to ask you something really interesting because it just came to me because in, there's a lot of talk about powerful men and how they misuse power with women. And clearly, not every powerful man has done that, but there have been enough examples that it's become a model that we have sort of seen and now are trying to correct through Me Too. I once worked for a very powerful woman, and it didn't matter what the sex was, power was power. And I watched her abuse her power with men in similar ways that men abuse their power with women. And I wonder if in the industry at large, what's the effect that you see of power on women and men? Do you see an effect?
I'm not, it's not something I'm dialed into. I mean, I see it at large, but I just haven't, I don't know. I just,
I guess the
it's
question I'm
not something
asking,
I have
not
anything, I don't have anything to say about it, honestly.
okay,
I have a lot more to say about, other things, but I just don't have anything to say about it. And I think that there's good and bad. And it doesn't matter whether it's male or female or black or white, you're either good, you either want to, and if you have power, if your power is egocentric and self-serving, you're just not going to do it well. And
yeah,
if your power is to grow people and inspire and validate and listen and know that your success is exponential if the people that you're powerful over are successful,
yeah.
and that's the only thing I wish that that can be invoked in any type of leadership. And I'm spoiled in this industry.
But part
It's,
of the reason why I'm asking, and I appreciate that, part of the reason why I'm asking is it feels to me that there's a new paradigm being created in the world today, which is it feels like the white male paradigm is being broken up a little bit.
isn't that interesting? It's
And
pretty
and it's
cool.
and it's really time for that to happen. And it feels like the feminine model is on the verge of coming to really be. And part of the reason why I was asking what you see in powerful women, because you're in an industry where there are powerful women, is that when powerful women use their power to uplift and inspire, and powerful men use their power to manipulate and control, the new paradigm seems like it would be so beautifully suited to destroy the old paradigm so that this new paradigm of a feminine way of leading the world can come to exist. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, I guess, my dad said to me last night, we were talking about, we were reminiscing, and he's like, I guess I just really, men don't know anything about women, he said. So we really don't know anything. And I'm like, mm, not a lot. I think that what's happened, and I was talking to my daughter, and she's in communications. She has such interesting stuff she studies, and we were talking about this pronoun, and I'm like, I just don't get it. And she's like, I can remember what she said to me because it was great. She goes, they're words that somebody invented that imply things, like,
Yeah.
it's just a word, they made us women or girls or feminine. And the truth is they're qualities that, we all have. And
Yeah.
so maybe the idea is, instead of stop thinking about it as a man thing or a woman thing, is start thinking about it as a quality of being,
Love it.
and amping up those qualities that make women magnificent and those qualities that make men magnificent. And I think it's really just tapping into what are the qualities that make a person magnificent. And if everybody wanted that, but we talked politics the other day, which I'm not. political, but if we had more of that, less ego, less of that commitment to being right,
Yeah.
you know, and and wanting to be of good character, wanting to be honest. You know, I had one day in the school, um, the educators blowing up my phone. They're like, "We have a mom who just entered the online class and she's blowing us up." And I'm like, "It's okay." They're like, "We're trying to get her off." I'm like, "Don't try to get her off." And I logged in and um, I introduced myself, and she was ranting and, you know, this isn't quality. And I came in another day and they weren't doing anything and they were playing. And I just don't understand this. We want some money back because we're not there getting, you know, all this stuff. And I finally said, you know, I said, let's just talk about it right here because I'm sure you're not the only parent. And I'm sure this is, you know, inciting things for other students. So let's just talk about it. And I think because I have such an awesome team and I know how hard we were all, how committed. I don't
Yeah.
hate saying working hard. It's like
Right.
statement, but and you know, I could say I'm really sorry that you're experiencing that. It opened me up to doing more surveys with students to make sure that we're customizing their education more. I said, but these are tactile learners. I said, you can't have them in here for 10 hours and not take time to play and
Right.
not take time to do other things, take time to feel. And you know, as we're doing it, because she was criticizing educators, I'm watching in the drop down and the students all start speaking up and I'm loving this. This has been amazing. We're so grateful to their educators. You know, we're so grateful for you. And, um, you know, and I said, listen, I said, you can have all the products you want. You will fill bags with it. You can take it home. So you have everything you need to work with it. We're doing that. We offer it all the time, which her daughter probably hadn't told her. And, but I guess what I'm trying to say is that if we could have, I didn't go in there to shut her down, to get her out, or to
Right.
hopefully not let the other people hear it. I just went in to say, okay, if you're, so in my small little footprint, I think it's just about leaders being fearless, but being willing to listen and then being allowed to change their mind. Because some of these conversations have led me to go, you know what, you're right. Let me look at that and we're going to change this.
Yeah.
Same with my company. They've gone, you know, done some things. And then today our conversation was maybe we need to shift this around, make this a little bit easier for them or whatever that is. And we just don't get that, you know, from
Yeah.
leaders and the men that I see in power. You don't get these candid, brave conversations, you know, like in the movies, you know, the president comes out and tells the truth to the world, you know, and you're
Right.
like, oh,
Right.
you know,
Right.
so
Let me try and
oh
wrap it
God,
up because I
way
want
off.
to honor your time. We spoke in the lightning round before, which we didn't go through today because we already did it, and I didn't feel like it was appropriate to redo it with you, even though we're filming it. About the idea of whether you feel like you're a leader or a follower. I want to revise that question a little bit, and I want to just ask because I think I heard you say it that in some way, in your form of leadership, the leadership is the servant to the people that they lead. Can you talk about the marriage of leadership and followership and how that looks to build a beautiful leader?
Well, because I don't, you know, I don't think I'm a leader and a follower, but I like working for other people. I'm not an entrepreneur, so I guess in that sense I'm a follower, but I'm or a contributor. You know, I don't know. Um, I think it's all about trust. You know, I think for there to be harmony between leadership and the people they lead or the people who want to follow. You know, and when they don't want to follow you, it's almost 99% of the time because they don't trust you. And that's if, right? And then what's in that case, right? It's usually that I didn't keep my word, or they were trying to share and I didn't listen, or I get so busy doing, I'm not letting them contribute. So I think the way the marriage between leader and follower is to make sure you're giving the people following an opportunity to be by your side, and then maybe even to step ahead of you.
Yeah,
Pam taught me that. Pam taught me that you cannot be afraid to hire or be around people who are better than you, because that's where you do your most learning.
I love
And
that.
yeah,
I'm also just thinking about the woman who came into the school who was irate, and most people wanted to shut it down. And a lot of leadership in the
here.
communities that we live in would shut that down because they don't want people to hear that and feel like they're protecting the people that are following them by shutting down that conversation. But when you walked in and followed the conversation, and you just said, "We want, like, let me hear what you actually want to say." I told you the story, I think, last time, but I'll just say it quickly, a quicker version of it, because I say it almost all the time. I have the honor of having a developmentally delayed daughter who doesn't have these conversations. So when she speaks and she doesn't get heard, she yells. When she yells and she doesn't get heard, she tantrums. And when she tantrums and she doesn't get heard, she attacks. And we found a way. I said to her, I need to understand you, and please just don't, like, find another way other than words. And I saw that she was able to communicate telepathically to me, but because she went like this and said, "I am doing that already, Dad." And I asked her what that meant, and she said, and I understood when she did this that she was putting thoughts into my head. An amazing moment for me and my daughter in that situation. It changed the whole relationship we have. But I also wondered if I could take that into boardrooms and talk to CEOs and their employees with it. If I could take that into hospitals and talk to doctors and the people they care for with that. I went into prisons and talked to prisoners and their guards that watch over them. I went into homeless shelters and talked to homeless people about it. And I asked them, what actually happens? And I saw in every single case, when people speak and they don't get heard, they yell. When they yell and they don't get heard, they try and create disruption and create chaos and try and destroy something. And when they try and destroy something and they don't get it, then they try and attack and actually gun down times people in a square, or blow up a building, or try and destroy a school, or try and, I mean, just exactly what that woman was doing. And I realized that my 30-year-old daughter, developmentally delayed, gave me the formula for a beginning to answer some of the problems that exist in the world today, which is, if we would just take the time to listen, which is really following the words of somebody else to the point that we allow it to enter into us and understand it and hear it, then leadership changes as a result of that. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, and I, really kind of had that aha moment with you the other day and listening to that, because I realized that when you're dealing with somebody who they absolutely are speaking a different language
Yeah.
and there's conflict, you can't. So that, I made that connection when you were like talking about white supremacists. I'm like, wow, how do you have that conversation? But, giving somebody just the opportunity to talk about where they're coming from. It's still a very slippery slope, I think, when it comes to stuff like that. Um, but on the contrary side, allowing this Black Lives Matter conversation to happen. And for me in the school, it was about being brave enough, because you would hear some people. The first messaging that went out sounded a little bit too much like all lives matter.
Yes.
And it was really important in that moment that we were able to say, but right now, this is what we're going to talk about.
Yeah.
And and so yeah, first
But what happened with the woman who came into the room who was upset with the way classes were running and
totally
saw?
chilled, totally chilled.
And didn't that happen because you allowed her the space to say what she needed to say, and she
Well,
could see people respond to what she was saying?
I don't think she could see those responses, but I think that when people are angry like that, they're already thinking that you're wrong, or you're cheating them, or they're not getting, and if I come in fighting, you're going to give me what I want.
Yeah.
And isn't it amazing when you can relax in life and know? I mean, that's like the time about feeling good in your skin. At this point in my life, I mean, not that I'm perfect every day. I have
Right.
my
Of
moments,
course.
but when I'm grounded or planted or present, fully present, I know that I don't have to go there
Yeah.
to get what I need out of a circumstance. In fact, I know I won't get what I need, and I'm going to have to come back and make apologies and repair relationships. And it's so much easier to just speak through the heart,
Yeah.
speak from the heart, listen with my heart. And then it's really helpful too that I know I knew she was wrong
Yeah.
because I watched what's been happening for these students
Yeah.
and I know what's available for them. And I just wanted to invite her to really see it. And I did need to hear it at that moment to make sure we're always evolving. But I think that I don't necessarily think the economy in the world needs to be shut down. And I think that in some ways, the changes that are happening in our culture of life through this are going to create a permanent change,
Yeah.
of the constant, the consumption and the material and you know, I hope in a year from now, we're looking back on this saying, wow.
Yeah.
Well,
I
I'm
sort
sure
of,
we'll be saying wow, but I mean in a
all
really
right. I
good
hope we're
way.
saying thank God or something like that.
Thank God. Yeah, thank God.
So you shared so much. I just want to give you 2 minutes to summarize and to just say to a world that is going through a lot of dismay, um, what might you suggest they do in this moment to try and bring unity back to our world?
Um, it's easy for me to sit here. I never lost my job. I got to continue to participate with the crisis. And so it's been a different journey for me. And there's a little PTSD here and again, but I haven't not been able to put food on my table. I haven't not been able, to pay my bills. So I think there's a segment of this world that's really suffering and frightened right now. And the only thing I can say, it's what I say to my students every day. I don't know what I don't know. You have to ask for help. You have to communicate. I'll have my cell phone. Just text me if this is hard or life is hard. And same with the team. So I think that really probably applies everywhere.
Yeah.
Ask for help and find somebody, the people you're listening to on these podcasts, find somebody and ask, and that person will ask somebody and eventually will find some way to help. Same with, and then if, then otherwise it's, don't fight the current, try to find your place, try to breathe and and believe. I'm a firm believer of energy in this, and I think at one point we had talked a lot about, those group prayer things that have happened in the world. That's about moving energy, and we need to move energy right now, and we need to we need to be positive. We need to be fearless. We need to fill this planet with thoughts of love and healing. And I know it sounds too esoteric, but I think there's something that happens in each one of us when we commit to that, and then so on and so on. And if you're not in a place you can do that, find somebody to be around you who can, and um, who can bring it, who can help you fake it till you make it.
Yeah.
But I think that's what's going to change things.
Jennifer, thank you so much for coming twice into the room. Um,
You're welcome. Thank you for having me, Dwight.
we recorded this time and got it. For those of you who are listening, I thank you so much for coming and listening to the show. This will probably be the first episode of 50.2. because maybe my conversations will change a little bit from a standard format to a more like this, which is I enjoy equally as much. I'm still trying to figure out how it goes. But if you have comments, please let me know if you like this format or you like the questions more. Um, if people want to get in touch with you, how would they do it?
Facebook, I know you did some of this for me. I got so busy after Saturday. Facebook is probably Messenger. I'm becoming much better about checking that stuff.
Fabulous.
Uh,
And if there are any other links, please send them to me. But I have the sort of teaser. I have some teaser links up in the show that we did before that I put up. We'll keep those up along with this one. For those of you who are listening, um, take a moment and pause and listen to what Jennifer said. To me, listening is at the heart of everything. And in these times, especially, the more we can take time to just sit back and listen. And not just listen with a thought of how do we respond to it or how do we answer up the problem or how do we figure it out. But I think Jennifer said in a number of situations, when people get that chance, when people come with their fists up and want to fight and nobody's there to fight, there's nobody left to fight. When we just say, tell us what you need to say, like give it your best shot. Like if we're doing something wrong, we want to change it, we want to help, we want to do something better. um, how are you doing that in your world? And for those of you who may not feel that you're as lucky as Jennifer to have the world working in so many ways for her, where the world may not be working for you in the ways that you want it to. In a mosaic, sometimes the pieces don't connect side to side. Sometimes they only connect corner to corner. And one of the beautiful things is there has to be something in your life that's working, that's a blessing. Focus on that. Focus
like that
on
old saying, count your blessings.
count your blessings, no matter, even if it's count your blessing. Even if it's that you are
Yeah.
able to wake up in the morning, even if it's that you have a little less pain today than you did before, even if it's that you can still talk to my daughter's in a group home and I haven't seen her in 4 months, but I look
Oh,
forward to 10 o'clock so much because 10 o'clock every day we FaceTime. And so I look forward to that. 10 o'clock's become my favorite hour in the day because I know I'm going to see her, I'm going to laugh with her, I'm going to be able to tell her how much I love her, she's going to be able to tell me how much she loves me. And even if it's just that, sure, I miss her and sure, I wish you were here. But rather than lament on that, find that place that connects you to what you believe in and let it open you up to other connections that might come from it. I want to thank you again, Jennifer. I want to thank people who have listened to listen. If you want to say anything on your way out that you haven't got a chance to say.
I'll say it without the curse words. No, I'm good. I've said it all, and I really, I love you so much. I just love you so much.
Thank you so much. What she wanted to say is wear a mask, okay? Okay.
I
So
wanted to say it emphatically.
emphatically wear a mask. She probably would have said wear an F mask, but that's
I
okay.
would have. So
Um,
you
thank
just
you
have
again,
to.
everyone. Until the next stranger appears, don't be strangers with each other. Take the
I'm going to
challenge.
take your picture of us
Okay.
together.
Okay, great.
Okay.
Until the next stranger comes, take the opportunity to reach out to somebody, whether it's on in the internet or it's on in person. Take the chance to go up to a stranger you don't know and just ask them how they're doing with no desire to fix them, change them, help them, or make them better. Just to listen to them, to just say, how are you? And hold the space for them to tell you how they are. One of the things that's been magical in this room for me is just when you give people the chance to open up and express themselves, magic comes out. And I've learned so much from the conversations that I've had with strangers, with people that I know. Um, and if you can't do it with a stranger yet, take a moment and do it with someone you know. And just ask them how you're doing and really listen. Too often we answer fine and great and go on to the next question. Take a time and say, no, I really care. How are you? And listen to the response. Until next stranger comes into the room, Don't be strangers.
Don't
Get to know
be.
each other. When we get to know each other, a world of strangers becomes a world of friends. Wouldn't it be great to live in a world
I
of
do have to
friends?
share that through this whole conversation, there has been this butterfly just flying all around my hedges, just the
Beautiful,
whole time.
beautiful.
Yes, very
See,
nice.
see
Thank you
that?
for bringing beauty into everybody's lives, Danny.
I love that. And so, if you have conversations in this room, butterflies will fly around your hedges too. No, I love you. Thank you so much for coming.
Love you.
Okay, big love. Ciao.
Bye.